the officer.
Or did somebody call you and say,
he pointed his rifle at the officer. And at that point, the officer's hanging on to the side of the roof,
Yes.
My eyes went right up to the TV, and I just couldn't believe
unable to pull a gun out,
Unable to
defend himself, unable to reach his radio.
Any of that, yeah. Yeah. Strictly defensive movement for him to lower his head, duck, lost his own grip, right, fell approximately 8 feet to the ground.
At least we knew he was mobile at that point, and that gave you a little bit of hope.
And there are still a lot of questions over who was responsible for securing that building in the first place. The town manager saying that it was not the responsibility of that police department, that they were dealing with traffic control and other issues. The Secret Service director in an interview this morning said it was the responsibility of the local police, but didn't specify which entity she was referring to. So a lot of questions still over how that shooter was able to get on that roof and be there for an extended period of time, guys.
And just a dramatic account there, Shaq. You imagine what would have happened if the officer had had a ladder and could have climbed up there. Oh, my goodness.
Right.
Shaquille Brewster, thank you.
Thank you. And coming up, we'll take a turn. The MLB has a new home run derby champion. Who was crowned the league's top slugger? Coming up on NBC News.
My sweetheart. Hey.
Huh?
Help me.
Looking for a deal? Give me a second.
The Grand Mafia. Download for free.
You see, these children, they're starving right now. Let's help Palestine out. They need food, they need water, they need medical supplies. The Muslim Ummah is getting united due to this catastrophe, and we ask Allah to help us out. But the real chance is for helping them yourself. So let's answer that call and earn the infinite rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for relieving the pain of His servants. So click the link below and donate right now.
Report live from Tel Aviv, from Juarez, Mexico. Tonight, top story reporting from Baltimore at the Key Bridge disaster.
When you look over your shoulder and you see the Key Bridge, what goes through your head?
That bridge has been here longer than I've been alive. It still doesn't feel real.
Hundreds of Israelis have gathered to demonstrate. What do the people in Gaza, do you think, what do they need most?
A place where Palestinians and Israelis have found common ground.
Every night, it's your news playlist. Top story with Tom Llamas. Streaming weeknights at 7 on NBC News Now.
In the Israel-Hamas war, dozens of people have been killed after another round of Israeli strikes in Gaza overnight. It's the latest in a series of Israeli attacks targeting senior Hamas leaders in a war that's claimed the lives of more than 38,000 people, according to the Ministry of Health in Gaza. NBC News is not able to independently verify those numbers. NBC's Hala Garani has more.
The families of some of the hostages held in Gaza today released new images of female captives. We don't know exactly how they got their hands on these images, but they are demanding a meeting with the Israeli Prime Minister before his trip to Washington, D.C. In one of the photos, we see female captives with their heads bandaged. Behind them, a framed photo of the Hamas political leader, Ismail Haniyeh. The names of the hostages are Agam Berger, Daniela Gilboa, Liri Albar, Garg, Nama Levy, and Karina Ariev. These are hostages that have been taken since October 7th, still in captivity. Their families, of course, want them out desperately. We understand that these photos were taken in the first few days after October 7th. Meantime, the Israeli military is claiming that since October 7th, it has eliminated half of the Hamas military wing inside of the besieged enclave. And this is happening as continued bombings are killing more Palestinians. Today, 40 people were killed, according to government media, in 2 separate attacks, including one on a UN school in the Nuseirat refugee camp.
Hala, thank you. Hala Garani there. The breaking news of the attempted assassination over the weekend of former President Trump overshadowed a lot of other news, including the deaths of 3 celebrities.
Renowned sex therapist Dr. Ruth Westheimer died this past Friday. She was 96 years old. We also lost Shannon Doherty. She's best known for her starring role in Beverly Hills 90210. She died Saturday at 53 years old.
Fans and friends are also celebrating the life of Richard Simmons, who died on Saturday, just one day after his recent 76th birthday. He gave his first interview in a decade. Here's NBC News entertainment correspondent Chloe Malas.
7, here we go. In his first interview in nearly a decade, Richard Simmons reminded us why he was so beloved by so many.
Richard was vulnerable. Richard was real. He knew he was missed. And in fact, he missed his fans just as much.
Simmons, the eccentric, high-octane fitness coach who rose to fame in the 70s and 80s, sharing that he was happy, in great spirits, and even planning a comeback of sorts.
He had many things in the works. There's a documentary that was going to be made about him with which he was participating. There's a Broadway show that he was co-writing. So there's a lot of things he was excited about.
Simmons had not been seen publicly in over a decade, abruptly removing himself from the public eye in 2014.
I'm trying to find out what happened to Richard.
Speculation about his well-being and whereabouts so rampant, the longtime friend of Today called into the show to speak to Savannah in 2016 to debunk reports he was being held hostage by his longtime housekeeper.
No one is holding me in my house as a hostage. You know, I do what I want to do, as I've always done. So people should sort of just believe what I have to say, because, like, I'm Richard Simmons.
But he insisted to people that he never stopped interacting with his fans.
He also said, to be clear, people think I disappeared, and I haven't. I've been calling my fans every day. I email with them.
And he made a habit of leaving uplifting messages on social media, too.
I'm here to make you happy and chase your blues away.
He also wasn't the recluse many thought he'd become.
He did let me know that he has been leaving the house, but in disguise.
Yeah! But nothing could disguise Simmons' love of people. In Simmons' last interview, he doubled down on the message that made him so adored.
He always wanted to know more about the person he was in front of, and that's why he affected so many millions of people.
Chloe Malas, NBC News.
Coming up, speakers at the Republican National Convention last night focused on the economy. So what is former President Trump's economic plan, and how would it affect Americans? We're going to dig in. You're watching NBC News Daily.
Yeah, so much to cover around the second day of the Republican National Convention happening in Milwaukee. We've got team coverage, and it's going to continue streaming free 24/7 right here on NBC News Now. And right here, you can see some live picture of the convention just now, where folks are walking through in preparation for some of their speeches tonight and throughout the week. Watch us wherever you stream live. The news continues.
How long does it take to get a summer body with wall Pilates? My bestie recommended the Wall Pilates Challenge from YogaGo, and I've almost finished it. My body has changed a lot, and I can't believe how easy it was. This app provides a step-by-step plan, and each workout takes just 15 minutes. It helped me tone my hips, butt, and thighs. I quit the gym after using this app. So tap the link below and try it now.
NBC News Daily is #1 for afternoon news across all of television.
I'm Morgan Radford.
I'm Vicki Wynn.
I'm Kate Snow.
And I'm Zinklea Samwat.
What's happening around the world?
Israel's military is building up there along the border.
And what matters here at home?
New numbers are out today showing more encouraging signs for our economy.
Let's zero in on exercise. We know we're supposed to be doing it. What does it do for our health?
What needs to change for social media to be a safer place?
NBC News Daily, weekdays from 12 to 4 on NBC News Now.
Bottom of the hour now. Here are some of the stories making headlines on NBC News Daily.
Nearly half of all Americans are currently under heat alerts. In the Midwest, more than 500,000 people have to bear that heat with no electricity after severe storms tore through Illinois, Indiana, and Iowa. And in Houston, hundreds of thousands are still without power 8 days after Hurricane Beryl caused outages.
Team USA will have more women than men at the Summer Olympics. This is the 4th time in a row women have outnumbered men on Team USA. The U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee is sending nearly 600 athletes to Paris later this month. The lineup features 314 women and 278 men. They span from age 16 to 59. The opening ceremony, of course, takes place next Friday with competition ending on August 11th.
And speaking of sports, Major League Baseball's All-Star Week is kicked off in Arlington, Texas. And now we have a new home run derby champion. Teoscar Hernandez of the LA Dodgers took home the prize in the annual contest. It pits MLB players against each other to see who can slug the most home runs. Hernandez made history as the first Dodger to ever accomplish that feat, smashing 14 home runs in the final round of the competition.
We're going to return to our coverage now of the Republican National Convention. Today's focus is on immigration.
Former President Trump has made it a central issue of his campaign. NBC News political and national correspondent Jacob Sovroff joins us now from Milwaukee. And of course, Jacob, you cover immigration extensively and specifically under the Trump administration. What are you expecting to hear from the convention speakers today?
Hey, Kate. Hey, Zinklea. How are you guys doing? I think today is going to be, back to policy largely. Yesterday, I have to say, was a very somber, almost very reflective feeling here on the floor of the convention in the wake of the assassination attempt of former President Trump. And obviously, we all know that if but for the grace of God, things things could have turned out very, very differently. And so tonight it's back to politics and it's back to policy. It's back to music, and immigration is going to be front and center. You know very well that the Trump administration is known for some of the harshest immigration policies in modern American history, most notably the family separation policy. In the party platform, a mass deportation policy has been front and center. They call it the biggest one in American history. It calls back to 1954 when under the Eisenhower administration, there was an operation that deported over 1 million Mexicans, including some Mexican Americans, to Mexico with an official name that is so controversial, so racist, frankly, that I can't say it on our air. Will the Trump administration go forward with that mass deportation proposal from the stage tonight? Will we hear something about that from the speakers? Will we hear more about a second family separation policy? President Trump, most notably himself, hasn't disavowed that policy. In an interview with Caitlin Collins on CNN when they had that town hall, I'll be watching very closely for all of that. And, of course, to see if the Trump administration speakers tonight may end up moderating their tone on immigration. Unlikely based on the rhetoric that we've heard so far here on the floor. Tom Homan, the former ICE director, is still slated to speak tomorrow night, he tells me in a text message. So immigration will be an important policy, not just tonight, but as well tomorrow here at the convention at the RNC in Milwaukee, guys.
And Jacob, talk a little more broadly about what to expect tonight. We talked about it at the top of the hour, but crime is also part of the theme of the evening, right?
Yeah, that's right, Kate. Obviously, people have talked all about crime all across the country. You hear it coming up quite frequently in local elections. And so we expect to hear from people not only who can speak to it from the law enforcement and political perspective, but also people who have been through crime themselves. We don't have specifics yet on who we'll hear from or what they will be talking about. But we know we will hear from, and you're seeing them on the screen right now, Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, and the list goes on. This is an important policy platform for the Republican Party, if not reflected in the crime statistics. As you know, the FBI crime statistics have come out, and in many big cities across the country, crime has gone down. So it'll be a little bit of what are they saying from the stage compared to what's the reality across the country. And of course, many people have a lot of personal experiences that they will relate to when they hear people talking from the stage tonight, guys.
And And Jacob, of course, you've been speaking with many officials out there, many members of the Trump family, and you actually made some news yesterday. Talk to us about the messaging you're getting from the Trump family.
Well, I spoke to Donald Trump Jr. yesterday, and of course, it's a very sensitive time. As I said, it came in the wake of the assassination attempt of the former president, which anyone with any level of empathy understands what a horrific and horrifying moment that was, not just for them, not just for the former president, but honestly for the nation. But we did talk a little bit about how the policies of the Trump administration, as I said, itself might ultimately change come a second Trump administration in the wake of former President Trump saying, he ripped up his speech to one reporter that he might come out with a completely different tone. And that was the subject when Don Jr. and I spoke yesterday, guys.
All right, Jacob, sober off for us. We could hear you, by the way, over the music there, Jacob. Thanks so much. Good to have you.
Thank you, guys.
We're following breaking news. 3 U.S. officials have confirmed with NBC News intelligence about an Iranian plot to assassinate former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, this is some big breaking news. The information caused the Secret Service to increase security around the former president. Now, this was all prior to what happened on Saturday. Let's bring in NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And so, Ken, a big headline here. What do we know?
Well, Kate, the first thing I want to say is that officials are telling us that this intelligence and this plot, they believe, had nothing to do with the 20-year-old shooter in Butler County, Pennsylvania on Saturday. That was just a horrible coincidence. But what we are being told is that intelligence came in recent weeks about a potential Iranian plot to assassinate Donald Trump, and that's over Trump's ordering the killing of Qasem Soleimani, that Iranian general, head of the Quds Force back in 2020. Very controversial move. The Iranian government was furious about that and has plotted to kill other American officials, according to U.S. intelligence, involved in that operation, including Mike Pompeo, who was the Secretary of State at the time, and John Bolton, who was the National Security Advisor, who still have security details to this day because of the risk of that Iranian plot. So now the intelligence is suggesting that the Iranians are targeting Donald Trump, and that was passed on to the Secret Service, that information, in recent weeks. And we are told it led the Secret Service to plus up, to augment Donald Trump's security detail. So what we saw Saturday was enhanced security, and that's going to raise a lot of questions in people's minds, given all the scrutiny of what many are calling a colossal security failure to secure that building, allow the sniper to get up on the roof, etc. So it's really sort of two threads of a story here. One, it's big news that there is an Iranian plot, according to U.S. officials, to assassinate the former president. It's also big news that the Secret Service augmented his security detail, and that's what we saw on Saturday when an assassin was able to get a sniper's position and almost kill the former president.
No, certainly big news, and I want to drive home a point you brought up, right? This has been an ongoing threat to former President Trump since he ordered the assassination of an Iranian military leader during his term. I just briefly want to ask you, though, how has the situation changed recently when it comes to Iran? Is there a reason for this increased threat now?
Yeah, well, to be clear, you said an ongoing threat. There is an ongoing threat. There have been plots against other former Trump administration officials. There has not been reporting that there was a specific plot to kill Donald Trump by the Iranians. That's the intelligence that came in recent weeks. Specific source reporting. It's unclear to what extent it was corroborated by other sources, but it was enough that it led U.S. intelligence community to pass that information on to the Secret Service in order that they increase security around Donald Trump.
All right, Ken Delaney, with that breaking news for us. Ken, thank you so much.
Let's turn now to the economy. Of course, it's top of mind for a lot of American voters right now, and last night's theme at the RNC focused on just that.
It was called Make America Wealthy Again, in their words, and Republicans outlined the structure of their economic policies for a second Trump term. They look to draw contrast, obviously, with President Biden's agenda. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans joins us with kind of a fact check, right, Christine?
Yeah.
There wasn't a ton of detail last night, but we did hear some basics. So what stood out to you first?
Here are the basics, I guess, of the Trump
record because we have someone running for president who has already been president. So he had a lot of deregulation when he was president of the United States, a lot of tariffs and individual and corporate tax cuts that will expire. So there will be some big tax issues on the agenda in the next year or two. And then, of course, COVID was a big hit on jobs and on economic growth. So he is a president who presided over the biggest loss of jobs in history because of COVID, of course. And so what is he promising in a second term? We've heard him again and again talk about mass deportations, even more tariffs, a lot more tariffs, more tax cuts, and less green. He would gut some of the Inflation Reduction Act investments in the climate that have already been passed by Congress, and he would focus more on oil.
And Christine, the markets have been on the rise. That's no secret. Some analysts say it's based on the anticipation that the former president will win. Trump has touted his strengths in business and markets. What do you make of that?
You know, conditions are very, very good in the stock market, and that's why stocks have been rising. Here's what the market looked like under Donald Trump. Record highs along the way. And remember when Donald Trump said when he was running against Joe Biden that if Joe Biden were elected, the economy would crash and so would the stock market? That did not happen. You, in fact, had the stock market continue to make record highs here. And the bottom line is that conditions are good in this strong job market. Inflation is starting to ease. Companies are making a lot of money, and that's what Wall Street reflects. So Wall Street has done very well under Donald Trump and done very well under Joe Biden. Christine, real quick, Republicans have been critical of green energy policies. They say they're going to drill for oil. Tell us about oil drilling and what you see. You know, Donald Trump and some Republicans really hate the green initiatives that have been passed into law, and they want more U.S. oil production. Here's oil production under Obama, U.S. oil production. Here's under Donald Trump, it hit a record. But fact is, it is still hitting records in terms of U.S. oil production and continue to hit records even next year. So there's a real disdain for green investments, but we are still pumping an awful lot of oil in the United States right now. Just interesting to note all of that. Christine Romans, thank you so much.
Thank you. And speaking of money, coming up, have you made your Prime Day list yet and checked it twice,
Yes.
Kay? Okay, good, because the items on deep discount, we're going to tell you what you might want to add to your cart. That's next on NBC News Daily.
Lester Holt.